So today we're going to focus on, as usual, fundamentals, since I'm a big fundamentals guy, but we're going to apply this to the context of sun salutations, which to me are burpees with a flair for the dramatic, because these movements are very similar in a lot of ways. So I kind of want to draw these consistencies between the two, even though they seem very different. This whole concept of going down onto the floor and coming back up functionally, one of the most important things that we can continue to work on as we move through our life. Yeah. And then other concepts, like, even though we think of sun salutations as this flow, what it really is it consists of these fundamental poses, right? Which have wide functional application. So we're going to bring in the focus of the asana within the flows, okay? So we'll do a little deconstruction there. And then we have other motifs to think about, which are kind of these motifs of repetition, right? Each subsequent sun salutation is an echo of the previous one. Each sun salutation is kind of a mirror image of itself, if you look at the way that the poses are sequenced. And so these broader motifs that I think about are like the echoes of generations, right? Like how I see my daughter in my own face. And that in and of itself is this beautiful echo that I never anticipated experiencing in my life. And so how do I apply this movement into these broader and more gorgeous motifs? And maybe that's something for you to think about as you move through today's class as well. That's your choice though, yeah? So, all right, the first thing I wanna do is just a little bit of preparation. So we'll just find ourselves on our mats. We don't really need any props here, unless you like to have a pillow around to sit on to get your hips a little higher, or a bolster. I want to sit down first, and we'll just take our hands, lacing the fingers together, really making an effort, if you can, to bring the elbows close to one another. Excellent. From here, we're just going to try to do these controlled articular rotations of the wrists. Why? Because if we've done sun salutations before, we know that we do use the wrists a lot. And it's what I call one of the non-ideals of yoga. This bend in the wrist and load bearing of the wrists. And feel free to change directions just as you find fit here. Good. Maybe start to think about rooting the sitting bones, your butt bones, right into the ground. And from that rooting, start to create some elongation in the spine all the way up through to the top of the head. Start to think about drawing the shoulders down the back. And start to think about the breath not just in the belly, but the breath occurring broadly through the entire rib cage and the entire belly and the entire back belly. So we're just expanding in all directions here. And allowing the breath to fall out and the ribs to fall in on the exhale. Inhale, broad expansion out. Exhale, broad contraction in, as we just do a few more of these controlled articular rotations. Good. And just shake it off. Grand. So, next thing I'd like to work on is I'd like to work on bringing our hand in a stop position, like you're saying stop. That's it. And then you'll take your other hand and just draw the fingers back a little bit. Open the thumb out as if you're trying to pull your thumb toward yourself. And then just be mindful of your own range of motion But we can go deeper by turning the fingers down. So you can go to the side a little bit, or you can go all the way down. Everyone's range is slightly different. You'll draw the fingers down. The shoulder is moving down the back, and the palm is pressing ever forward. Little circles with the thumb will give you some feedback in different ways. Good. Rotate the hand back upright and allow yourself to bend at the wrist. You're going to fold the fingers underneath the forearm. And then you're going to draw the hand toward the belly of the forearm here. Keeping good structure in the shoulder, of course. Reminding yourself to regain connection to that broad breath. Really good, everyone. Good. Shake that hand off. Beautiful. All right, so we're going to bring our opposite palm. This is my right palm forward. You can feel free to start to stretch the belly of the forearm this way, or we can start to actually modify toward something more intense with the fingers down. This upside down stop sign. You can even play with individually articulating each finger, and you might notice that that will create some opening in different aspects of the belly of the forearm. Breathe deep, good structure in the shoulders. Circle the thumb. Shake it off. Okay, good. Bring it back and then allow your fingers to bend down. We're going to bend the fingers underneath the belly of the forearm. Reach the bones of the wrist forward and draw the shoulder down. Excellent. Shake the hands off, circle the hands and wrists one more time. Right hand will come high up overhead. You're going to bring the fingertips just over your ear, spread them wide. And then you're going to draw your right ear to your right shoulder. We're exposing the side of the neck, and then we're going to draw the shoulder down the back, reaching our left fingertips toward the ground. And the breath is an excellent tool for enhancing this stretch. So try breathing into that tense space in the neck, in the scalenes, in the traps. The chin is drawing in, and we have this opposing reach from the crown of the head all the way down through the fingertips. And then we'll switch sides. So right hand is reaching down toward the ground. Left hand is coming up over the side of the head, right over the top of the ear. We have an opposing reach, hand to head. A lot of the referred tension in the back of the neck muscles comes from these side neck muscles. Keep breathing deeply. Excellent. I knew you were coming back, Louise. Keep breathing into that space. How much of your rib cage can you completely fill? 1, 2 more deep breaths. Release it, and let's just get some controlled articular rotation. It's called CARS. The head, full range, and just notice any improved range of motion or any freedom, sensation of freedom in and about the neck. And now we're going to take this down the spine, this lateral curvature. So we're going to go into our all fours position. Some spinal articulations. So cat-cow, cat-horse, whatever you'd like to call it. Let's make this structured, index fingers at parallel to one another. That's forcing external rotation of the shoulders, making it easier for you to draw your shoulders down your back. The knees are just behind the hip sockets. Good. Let's just connect the breath and feel the shirt tighten on the rib cage at the back of the body. It's time to turn on that finer sensitivity, because that's what this is all about. We're moving our body in outer space, but we're moving our awareness through our inner space. We're going to inhale, we're going to elongate through the tailbone and the top of the head. So this is a lengthening. Maybe we're not hinging our neck back so that it's hard to speak or breathe, keeping the neck long and organized with the rest of the spine. We'll exhale. We'll now reach the middle back all the way up to the ceiling. You know, that never felt good in your 20s, but after your 20s, this flexion of the spine just feels fantastic. Inhale to elongate, crown ahead, tailbone moving in opposite directions. That's a isometric. Exhale, round. Maybe just directing your gaze in that space between your knees, breathing into that rounded spine, the tight spaces of the rib cage muscles, and then inhale to elongate one more time. Now this one I call puppy. I really love this. This is one of my favorite actions to do. We're keeping the same structure in the arms and in the shoulders. And then what we're going to do is find your left foot. You find your left foot. Good. Find your left foot. Keep your knee on your mat, right? But you're going to lift your foot. And you're going to try your best to look at your big toe. So your left foot now is going to open out. Your knee stays on the ground as a pivot point. You're going to direct your gaze toward your big toe on the outside of your body. And then you're going to take your foot and bring it across your midline to the other side. And you're going to direct your gaze toward your big toe on the other side. So all the foot's doing is pivoting, and you're trying to direct your gaze toward the big toe as it crosses in and out. So what pace do we want to do that at? The breath. So maybe on the inhale, you bring the foot to the outside. On the exhale, you bring the foot to the inside, or vice versa. Keep breathing, and I'm going to give you a couple of cues to work on as you do this. What we're doing here is lateral flexion of the spine. So we're trying to keep a long spine as we do this, but we're also trying to make the open side of the spine more open, and we're trying to make the closed side of the body more closed. Maybe we're looking for a really nice sensation of stretch within the rib cage. Excellent. We're going to take a few more breaths. Are you okay, Mom? You look like you have a question.
I'm not really feeling anything in that stretch.
You might not be tighter in this area, but what you want to try to imagine doing also is keeping your pelvis stable in space. So you're not swinging your hips left to right. I'm not seeing that, but just try to keep the movement into the spine, not anywhere else. That's one thing I'll usually see. Great. And then you can always take a child's pose if that movement stops feeling novel to you, if you need a break. Circle your wrists while you're down there since we've got you on your hands, yeah? Everyone doing good? Cool, awesome everyone. Beautiful work thus farly. I just made that phrase up. We're gonna go to the other side now, okay? So we're lifting opposite foot. I have my left foot lifted. Now, Mom, you might feel it on the other side. Some people are tighter on one side than the other, even though the spine's kind of doing the same thing. So attach, inhale to one aspect of the movement. Attach, exhale to the other aspect of the movement. And we're playing with these opposites. How long can we make the spine as we're doing this lateral flexion? Are the arms straight? Just a couple things to play with. They're not dogmatic, but it's a good thing to work on. Elbow pits forward toward the front of your mat. Yeah. So we're juggling these 18 cues as we're also remembering to breathe. Really good, everyone. And then we'll take a child's pose. We'll take a little flick of the wrists. I want to do something with the feet. And then we're going right into our sun salutations. Okay, so I'm checking my time also. Yes, beautiful. All right, so let's take a seat on a block or on a pillow or just on the floor if you feel like roughing it. Good. Real quick reflexology for the feet. You know, I did a tennis ball in my myofascial and isometrics class. What do you do if you don't have a tennis ball, right? And so this is one of my favorite little quick protocols. You're going to give yourself a little thumbs up like this. And what you're going to do is you're not going to grab the toes themselves, but pardon the dirty feet because of the floor, is you're going to try to grab the metatarsal bones, the knuckles of the toes, friends, yeah? And so we're going to start with big toe, second toe. And really all you want to do is try to relax the foot, and you're just going to try to shift the bones of the foot past one another. It might be a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch of movement between the two knuckles of the foot. While you're keeping your foot relaxed, also examine the spaces between the feet or the toes or the lack thereof. If your feet are tight, the toes might get wedged together a bit. We're going to go second, third toe next. Okay, second, third toe next. Good. You're going to go third and fourth toe, middle ring toe. Excellent. And then you'll go ring and pinky, and maybe you'll go wee, 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 wee as you do that all the way home. Sorry, I'm flexing my dad muscles. Good. And so then after you've done that, we've just mobilized the spaces between the bones. You're going to take your 4 fingers and you're going to try to wedge the fingers in between each of the toes. You're spreading it like we're getting a pedicure, those little cotton pads. Great. And then this feels like that bad, good, good, bad thing. You're going to take your fingers and massage the sides of the toes gently at first. Don't overdo it. These are the nooks and crannies we're dealing with here, but a lot of tension builds up between the toes, and we're really going to be articulating our feet to root ourselves in our sun salutations. So really thinking of the feet as the primary driver to a lot of our actions, and then the core and the breath as a second driver. So after you've massaged the sides of the toes, the way that I like to extract the fingers is keep a gentle squeeze, and then I like to just traction my toes a little bit. Now, let's just wiggle the toes right and left of the feet. And you'll really notice a difference in the mobility of the feet. Thumbs up if anyone's feeling that. Is anyone feeling that? Excellent. Mom, you gave it to me. Great. Excellent. I'm happy to see that, everyone. Now, other foot real quick. So I'm developing a little bit of turf toe on this left foot. So we'll go big toe, second toe. So when the big toe knuckle hurts a little bit, we'll go second, third toe when you're ready. Okay. third and fourth toe. Our friend Tom Greenman, when he started running marathons, he got turf toe. Yeah. Fourth and fifth toe, wherever you're at. Just make sure you get them all. Okay. So now rubber meets road here. We're going to take our fingertips. We're going to spread the toes. Now this is my, interestingly enough, tighter foot. Might be a correlation there. So massaging the sides of the toes. So we mobilize the forefoot and we're releasing where some of that tension just kind of builds up between the toes. Shoes, we're not spreading our feet. And give the toes a gentle squeeze and release it through, just drawing the fingers out and away. Wiggle the feet, feel the magic. Mom, you got a question? They look great. You're really moving well there. And also now, if you can relax your feet, you might see, not everyone, but you might see a little bit more space between your toes after doing that. Just passively with relaxed feet. And it makes a big difference. So that's something you could just do every day, which will not make your life worse. Yeah, it'll make the quality of your life better. All right, so are we ready to come to standing position, my friends? Ah, this is beautiful. This is my favorite part now. Okay, I want to just talk about some props. Now, if you continue to enjoy the classes, I don't want to make things, I don't want to turn your house into a gym. I want to show you how to do these things with minimal props, but things that I really do use quite a bit. A yoga block or two, you can replace with a big thick tome or book if you have something like that. Those are always useful to have for numerous reasons. A strap, like a yoga strap, but really you can use a belt. You can use a rope. You can use a pulley or a cable. I doubt you have that, but any type of run of anything. Also, what I do use sometimes is a pole of some kind. Most people have a broomstick. Some people have a mop handle. That can work. So those are things that we might draw on in this class. They're not requisite, but they will help enhance the work that we do. Yeah. So just over time, if you come back to class, these are good things to have. So all right. So I want to start with our sun salutations now. And I like to use oversimplicity sometimes because it's an excellent kind of teacher. But really what we're doing with our sun salutation A is we're carrying our mountain pose intention into all of our poses. So we're trying to keep the same alignments as we go down onto the ground and then we come back up. So really our guiding pose here is mountain pose. Passive, yes, but it's my favorite pose because it is the instructional manual pose for our yoga practice, most poses. So we'll find ourselves standing at the top of our mat or our perceived mat space. You want to have space behind you because our feet are going to go back. So there's a couple of ways to do this, and this all depends on the spread of your hip sockets. The traditional way is your big toes are together. The knuckles of your toes are also together, and your heels are separated by about an inch and change. The way that I like to do this, it's a little more functional and dovetails nicely with just moving through life, is I like to have my feet hip width apart. The same intention, so take a look at the space between your second and your third toes. Follow that line up the foot and follow that line up the legs, and you'll see that that pretty much equates to the midline of the feet and the legs, the middle line of the feet and the legs. Get those two midlines parallel to one another. It might feel like the feet are turned in slightly. That's okay. So from there, let's really draw the balls of our feet into the floor beneath you. You're going to draw the two side corners of both heels into the ground, really connecting and rooting to the floor. That's what we're focused on for just 1 or 2 breaths. A phrase you'll hear often from me now is you're going to hug the bones of the legs with the musculature of the legs. What will also happen is your kneecaps will draw onto the legs. And you might even feel a bit of connection at the bottom and the top of the glutes. It's beginning to feel like work already. Mula and Uddiyana Bandha, we find this in Pilates, we find this in martial art, we find this in yoga, and we find this in dance. Lift the pelvic floor muscles and imagine wrapping the abdominals around your waist like a girdle. It doesn't have to be tight, it just has to be a subtle awareness. And from that sensation of connection all at our base, we're going to continue that breath outward in all directions as we draw our shoulders down our back. We're going to hug the bones of the arms with the musculature of the arms. And we're going to spread our fingers as wide apart as possible. Just as your heels are drawing down into the ground, you're going to reach the very crown of your head in the opposite direction. Feet reaching down, fingertips reaching down, crown of head reaching up, shoulder blades reaching down, and we're breathing. And so this is just mountain pose. This is an active pose when you really work on all of the intrinsic connections in it. Let's just take 1 or 2 more deep breaths before we go into hinge. I just want to impress one thing on you. All you're trying to do is take this mountain pose with a bend at the waist. So nothing else changes in mountain pose. Hands will come up first, reaching up toward the ceiling. Shoulder blades draw down the back. Reach through the wide spread fingertips, hands to the sides. And then we're going to come forward into our hinge, which is just, again, I reiterate, mountain pose, bent at the waist. Nothing else changes. If you're too low for right now, your ribs are going to flare. Think about drawing your ribs up a little bit. We're breathing here. We're noticing how the weight is shifted on our feet. Now our next step is we're going to take this standing forward bend. Again, I want to say, how much mountain pose can you maintain in your front bend as you migrate forward a little bit more? Good. You're reaching your tailbone back. Your feet are into the ground, hugging the bones of the legs, connecting to the intrinsic core and breathing deeply, slowly moving down forward. I'm not grabbing my legs yet. I'm seeing how far I can get down, just using my own musculature. Then I'll take my ankles, backs of my legs. I'll take my toes, or if I'm really feeling like boogieing, I can stand on my palms. Now we're using our arms to help create a little bit more resistance downward, breathing deeply. Try to keep mountain pose in tension. And then you can release it, let the head and shoulders fall. Take your deepest front bend. Place your hands on the mat. We're setting up for our plank position. Index fingers are parallel, forcing that external rotation in the arms. Excellent. Chin tucks, neck is long. And let's just Step back with one foot. Before you step back with the other, really energize and organize that back leg, that work leg. Hug the bones of the leg with the muscles. Kneecap on leg. Feel the glutes connect. Breathe deeply and then extend your opposite leg to my right leg back. Plank position. I'm going to hold this for about 30 seconds or longer, so take breaks as you need in your plank. A plank position is just mountain pose, but oriented differently toward the ground. Beautiful. So the feet are still internally rotated slightly so that the midlines are parallel, kneecaps on legs, shoulders down the back, arms are straight. Chin is tucked and neck is long. The heels and crown of head are reaching away from each other. Let's take 3 more deep breaths through the ribs and back. Hugging the bones of the arms and legs with the muscles, and then lower the knees briefly. Sit back in a child's pose so that we can just circle the wrists. That was our first plank. We're considering this a little pit stop in our mountain pose, or our sun salutation, excuse me. Good. From there, we're going to return to plank. And I want you to take your most comfortable version of chaturanga. We'll address that in our next cycle of sun salutation. I just want to, if the camera's on you, observe you in whatever chaturanga, that's lowering down to the ground, that you do or don't do. I'm going to give it, 15, 20 seconds, just to give everyone the space to work on it on their own. Good. I see you. Good. Awesome, Karen. Carrying it down. Excellent, Louise. I see you. Miriam, I could kind of deduce what you're doing. I've got an idea because I could see your shoulders. Good. Excellent. All right. Beautiful. Okay, take a rest. Let's circle the wrists real quick. So our mountain pose is mountain pose. Our hinge is mountain pose. Our plank is mountain pose intention. It feels confusing because you're just facing the ground and your arms are forward, but you're doing mountain pose. Now what we're trying to do with our chaturanga is we're trying to carry that mountain pose in the body down onto the ground. So just a couple of quick things to think about for the next time we do this. A major limiting factor for people is their wrists. It's a big problem. The mobility isn't there. So you're going to give yourself a break and you're going to rotate your fingers out. This will allow most people a little bit more mobility in the wrists than doing it this way, which is just harder. Yeah? The first class, I talked about 3 rings. You hug the ground with your palm ring, your middle knuckle ring, and your fingertip ring. That will help you support your wrists with the muscles in your forearms. But what that'll also do is create a line of strength from the ground in your hands through to your shoulders. It's called irradiation. So by squeezing the ground, you're increasing strength in your chaturanga pattern. Finally, one last thing. Squeeze your elbows into your sides like you're trying to squish grapes. Yeah? Throughout your whole range in chaturanga. And then I lied, one more thing, don't go as low as you want to go. Cut it in half. Quality of alignment and quality of motion is what will get you there quicker than cheating your way through it. Does that make sense, everyone? Can you give me a thumbs up? Excellent. So that's 4 things. It's a lot to work on. Maybe pick one next time, yeah? We're going to now go to our plank position again, all right? I know we stopped midway through. We didn't even do a whole sun salutation yet. Are you getting tired? So, Miriam, you good?
I have a question.
Sure. Hopefully I have an answer.
I couldn't see because I just had you and you were talking to the screen what you
Sure.
mean by lower yourself.
Yes.
So if you could demo
So,
that. And also for the hinge, are your knees soft, a little bent?
So that what you're looking at, the bent knee hinge is, yes, that is acceptable. I always like to say, what's an aspirational? What's the thing that like we want to see in our head ourselves doing? The aspirational ultimately is having the range of motion to take it with straight legs. But what I'd rather see is, if you can't do that because your hips are tight or you feel it in your spine for some reason, do bend the knees a little bit. But then also have in your mind that thing that you want to work towards slowly over time. Does that make sense, Mira?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now the chaturanga piece I want to talk about, all we're doing is a push-up.
Oh, okay.
So chaturanga, when you lower yourself down just to deconstruct further, the feet are involved. You're pointing your feet so that you direct your chest bone past your fingertips. And then here we go. We're making more range for our wrists by turning our fingers out. And then we're bringing our elbows back and squeezing our sides. Maybe the lowest we want to aim for is a 90-degree arms, right? Maybe that's the lowest we want to aim for. A lot of people always go all the way down. Let's just work on this. And that's really hard. So instead, what I'd rather see is quality action and alignment, maybe just an inch and then back up. This chaturanga, to me, is better than this chaturanga. Does that make sense? Everyone's doing it. Okay, good. Sweet. So you have a second here to work that plank. Play with that chaturanga. And then we're going to do an upward facing dog from our chaturanga. So draw the knees down onto the ground. Point the feet. And then bring yourselves down completely, actually. I'm editing. Baby cobra is going to be our first back bend. So bring your hands right at your lowest ribs on the mat. Fingertips can stay out. Just like chaturanga, we're squeezing our elbows in toward one another. We're drawing the shoulders down the back. We're lifting the kneecaps onto the legs, connecting to the core and the breath. And then we're just directing our gaze upward toward the front of our mats. Keep your eyes on the front of your mat. Keep drawing your elbows toward one another. Keep making the back of your neck long and the legs strong. You want to be able to speak when you're in your baby cobra. Breathe deeply. No tension in the front of the neck. The work is in the legs and the intrinsic core muscles. The work is in the upper back muscles. The work is not in the low back. Primarily the legs, core, and upper back. Exhale. Roll your sternum down onto the ground till you're flat on the floor. Lift your legs and windshield wiper your feet left to right from that position. Yeah. Release out the low back and the hips. Good. We're just moving through this slowly. So this is mountain pose, intention in the legs. The feet are still slightly internally rotated. The legs are roughly doing the same thing. The shoulders are still drawing down the back. The core is connected and the breath is the same way. The neck is also long like mountain pose. So we can use mountain pose here in our baby cobra. Bring your hands forward now. Good. Just walk your fingertips all the way toward the front of your mat briefly. Breathe into the middle back. Just straighten your whole body out and then bring your palms onto the mat. Sit back briefly into a child's pose. We're going to set up for our downward facing dog. From the fingertips are spread wide. The wrists are straight. The shoulders are drawing down the back. We're working straight elbows. So mountain pose intention, arms and shoulders. Chin is tucked, neck is long. Going to the feet. We're going to tuck the toes. Good. And now we're going to try to do this from the core. So the feet and the hands are the anchors. And then we're going to imagine our abdominals lifting, elevating our pelvis up into our downward facing dog. Breathe into your version of downward facing dog. And I'm going to have you turn on your inner sensitivity. Are you feeling tension in your neck? Are you feeling that you're putting this down dog primarily in your hands or in your feet? Are you feeling this somewhere in the spine or the shoulders? Things to be aware of. Are you feeling this in your wrists? Beautiful. 2 more breaths. And then lower the knees. Take a break, circle the wrists. Downward facing dog is just a hinge with the arms forward. That's it. It's a hinge with the arms forward. We already know that a hinge is a mountain pose. So by that deduction, we're trying to keep mountain pose in tension as we do our hinge on the floor for downward facing dog. Let's do this one more time. I'm going to have you press up in a down dog in your own favorite way. Yeah. From there, I'm going to give you some cues. You want to try to make the weight 50 or 25% on the hands and the feet. So it's kind of all spread even there. We're spreading that load by spreading our fingertips. And from your view, can you see the outsides of your heels from the outsides of your feet? If you can't, get your midlines even in your feet and legs, and that will feel more intense. Can you align your ears with your upper arm bones? Can you lift your ribs into your spine and breathe deeply here? Let the breath deepen the pose. Notice I didn't mention anything about the heels because we have so many other intrinsic connections to make. The heels lowering to the floor are a consequence of focusing on all the other things. Good? Now we're going to drive our breath to create some movement here, okay? I want you to, in as few steps as possible, dear friends, walk your feet between your hands without taking your hands off the ground, or try. You could bend your knees to do that. Take the weight off your hands briefly, and then walk back to your downward facing dog. I want to get you moving a little bit here. Good. And let's rinse, wash, repeat for just a couple more repetitions. You can also substitute that for a break if you need it. But can you keep mountain pose and tension in the arms as you do that? Can you keep the shoulders down your back? Index fingers parallel to one another? Can you find some connection in the core of the breath? 1 or 2 things to work on. And maybe with your last one, can you do fewer steps than you did in the previous step back? Good. Once you've done your final repetition of that, what I'm going to have you do is unfurl the legs and spine long. You're going to reach the arms back, and we're in our hinge position now. Hinge position. This is mountain pose, bent at the hips or the waist, the hips. Good. Maintaining that mountain pose in tension and alignment, we're going to inhale the hands high overhead, reach the feet into the ground, draw the shoulder blades toward the ground, but reach the wide spread fingertips up, crown of head toward the ceiling, toward the sky. And then keeping the fingertips spread wide and the arms long, we're going to gently lower the arms, reaching the fingertips out and down as we do so. Good. You're going to reach the left arm up overhead. You're going to press the left foot into the ground as you reach the left arm toward the right side of your mat for a side bend. The right hand is reaching toward the ground. The left hand, or whichever hand is in the air, is reaching overhead and to the side. Can you fully relax your head so that your neck is following that angle of the rest of your spine? Exhale the left arm down to your side, right arm comes up overhead or opposite arm. We're going to take that side bend. So my right arm is reaching toward the left side of my mat. I'm firmly reaching my right foot into the ground. Breathing into the side ribs. And then allowing the head to relax into this global side bend. Going to release the arm down toward the ground. Find ourselves in our mountain pose. Take a quick second to shake it off. And then we're going to go through Sun A one more time, but quickly. Yeah? How did that feel? I recognize I just kind of got right into it. You know, I said we're gonna feel it out ourselves, but no, I just wanted, let's just get right into it. So are there any pressing questions regarding our sun salutation A? No? Okay. So yeah, mountain pose is basically the pose. It just has different contexts here. If you can keep those alignments in our mountain pose and you're good to go, I'm gonna just throw in a couple of options for this sun salutation, just to give you a little bit more work, a little bit more opportunity to get your body to work as a whole with itself. So I'm going to change directions now here. And so we're going to take our mountain pose to begin with. This is our scaffolding for everything else we do. Good. The midlines of the feet and legs are parallel. From there, we feel that glute connection. We feel that intrinsic core connection. We're drawing the ribs in toward the spine. We're breathing 360. We're drawing the shoulders down the back. Same integrity and intention in the arms as the feet. And also we're creating space in between all the vertebrae by reaching our tailbone down toward the belly and the crown of the head toward the sky. Breathe into that pose for just a brief moment, and let's play with balance. From that perfectly connected mountain pose, can you lift your heels? When you lift your heels, you might notice that we all have a tendency to roll toward the outside edge of the foot. Can you equally root your big toe knuckle and the outside ball of foot into the ground? The way that you would do that is by mountain posing your legs or keeping that connection. Breathe deeply in that balanced position. Even straightening the arms at the elbows and spreading the fingers is going to help you with your balance. Yep. Good, couple more deep breaths. From that balanced position, inhale your hands high overhead. Can you reach the muscles of your arms through the skin of your fingers? You're trying to reach past your outer boundaries while keeping some integrity in the shoulders, drawing the shoulders down the back. Exhale, lower the heels, allow the arms to start to fall down toward the sides, but reach out and down. And we're moving into hinge position. Hinge is a beautiful preparation for our front bend. If you want to play with that challenge, we have 3 more breaths here. Inhale to lift your heels off the mat in your hinge position. Keep the midlines of the legs parallel, core connection, deep breath, shoulders down the back, mountain pose, arms and fingers. Inhale, exhale, lower the heels, and let's just allow ourselves to fall forward. You can place your hands on your shins. You can place your hands on the mat. We're going to tuck the chin, lengthen the spine here. Feel free to take passive end range, so just grab the ankles and draw yourself in. Can you sprinkle a little mountain pose in your standing front bend?
Shift the weight towards the front, toward the front of the feet. And allow the in-breath to deepen the pose. Allow the integrity in the pose, the using of the muscles in the pose to direct the breath where you want it to go. Place your hands astride your feet. Even if you need to bend your knees a little bit, that's great. Index fingers parallel to one another. External rotation in the arms as I'm doing right here, just demonstrating. Shoulders down the back. Keep mountain pose arms as you take one big bold step back with one foot. Another big bold step back with the other foot. Can we find mountain pose feet and legs here? Can we find connection of the intrinsic core muscles here? Can we draw the ribs up into the spine here? Shoulders down the back. Arms are straight. Elbow pits are forward. Spine is long. Drop the knees, but keep the body straight. Even if you're used to standard chaturanga, keep the knees on the ground. Make sure that the abdominal muscles feel a little stretch because your hips are down. They're not up, they're down. And now we're going to go down 2 inches, grabbing the ground with our 3 rings and our elbows back. Just an inch or 2. Keep the chin tucked, the neck long, press up. We're going to do that again. Inhale, exhale, elbows back. Keep grabbing the ground. It feels insignificant, but it's very important. Press up. 30 more. Down. 3. Up. Down. Up. Now look at the ground, just about 2 feet in front of you, but keep the neck long. We're just addressing the upper spine. And then up. Good. Let's lower all the way down. Baby cobra, just so again, we can understand that it starts in the integrity of the legs. Good, straight, strong legs. It then moves to the core muscles in the 360 breath. And then before we even lift the head, we want to connect to the back by drawing the shoulders down the back and drawing the elbows toward one another. Grab the ground. And then you can lift the head and the neck evenly so the chin stays tucked. And maybe your gaze is just a half a foot or a foot behind you. Keep breathing in this. Your challenge is to lift the knees off the ground and keep the legs, the midline of the legs parallel to one another. 2 more deep breaths through the side body. Bend the knees and sit back into child's pose when you're ready. We're going to prepare for our downward facing dog. Again, downward facing dog is just a hinge. It's just confusing because you're oriented differently than standing hinge. Spread the fingers wide from your child's pose. Arms are straight, shoulders are down the back. Connect the feet to the floor. And then we're going to use the core muscles to elevate the pelvis up into our down dog. Are you feeling it more in your hands and in your shoulders and in your neck? Then maybe what you want to do, yeah, exactly, is you want to walk the feet back a tiny bit. Good. Yeah. Vice versa. Feeling it too much in the feet, walk your hands forward, walk your hands back a tiny bit. That'll direct it into the hands and the shoulder girdle. Midlines of the feet and legs parallel. Core muscles connected. 360 breath. Shoulders down the back, arms are aspirationally straight, fingers are spread, and we're grabbing the ground with our 3 rings. Beautiful. Chin is tucked, neck is long. And then in as few steps as possible, maybe you take a big giant lunge step. You're going to try to get your feet between your hands. Arms, we want to try to keep mountain pose integrity. Take the opposite foot and boldly walk it forward between your hands. Good. Knees might be bent for some. Maybe legs are straight for others. Relax the head and shoulders. This is passive. Shift the weight to the fronts of your feet. And then we're going to bring our hands behind our ankles and draw yourself into a standing front bend. Are your shoulders in your ears? Draw the shoulders toward the hips here. Good. Inhale. We're going to slowly lengthen the spine. We're going to start to bring the arms in alignment with the length of the spine. And we're going to come into a hinge position. One more inhale to lift the heels as an option to play with your stability. Rooting both balls of each foot equally into the ground. So we're using the toe side and the heel side of our foot evenly. That's both balls of feet. That's another fancy term. Heels are lifted. Can you try to come into Urdhva Stasana with your heels lifted? That's hands overhead. Inhale, exhale, lower the arms, lower the heels. Shake it all off. Sun salutation A. Beautiful. How did that feel for everyone? Okay? Awesome. I see thumbs up.
It was challenging, but good.
What's that?
Challenging, but good.
Yeah, and this is the thing. If we're focusing on everything that's happening within the work, a couple will do the trick. You know, it's about efficiency of action here, I think. And I'm not saying that like the yin style yogas are wrong. I'm just saying that there's this immense value in this Iyengar styling, this harder styling of yoga where you're really focusing on the connection. So good. Awesome. Yeah. So anyone have anything pressing they want to mention before? Yeah, Mama.
My hands are killing me.
Your hands are killing you. So
Right here, babe. Right here.
right in the palm?
This is where
Interesting.
arthritis is.
Yeah.
This
So the
bone on bone.
so
This
the
is
arthritis.
bad.
Yeah. So this is very frustrating for a lot of people, especially with something like arthritis. You know, I'm sure you've tried all the longer term interventions. The other interventions that I give people who have debilitating arthritis in the hand is I encourage them to try to work it on the wall.
Yeah.
Or unload the poses, like, you know, instead of a full plank, do the plank on the knees, you know. And then other things, Mom, like you've done before, it's using blocks. By gripping the blocks with your hands, that will help a good amount. And again, it doesn't help you, you said before in a previous class.
Using the block thing doesn't, because
How
I'm
does
still using pressure of my weight on.
Yeah, and
This-
the reality is, unless you're standing at the wall, there's
Yeah.
no way that you can unload these poses from your hands.
Well, no, what I need to do is I need to build up the strength in my hands, the other aspects of my hands, my wrists, the other fingers. So I'm not putting all the pressure. Naturally, I think it would be, it's normal that you would think that this would be where the pressure would go, no? Right?
No, it's 100% normal. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, but the idea is grabbing with the fingertips in the palm, you get more efficient at that and stronger with that. And then again, like I've mentioned, the muscles, the tunnels of the forearm start to support the wrist and the bones of the hand more. And also, yes, you build integrity in your hand if you do this consistently, but gently.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to overdo it either. One last thing for everybody. I highly recommend that everybody take collagen. In terms of if you can, right? If you're not vegetarian, because collagen, and there are marine sources of it, but collagen has the highest uptake, meaning it absorbs the most out of any other protein, but it also goes to your connective tissues, and it does make a big difference. Also CBD, turmeric, all that stuff will help with the inflammation related. So that's what I meant by longer term stuff, Mom, you know? Yeah. Okay, so I want to go into Sun B. So we have a lot of information that we may have already just reviewed or just learned regarding Sun Salutation A. It's the same intention, right, gang? Mountain pose is kind of the scaffolding pose. There are dialectical differences, right? Sometimes your knees are bent, sometimes the elbows are bent, you know, sometimes you're looking somewhere else. But the idea is that is your main alignment. Can you keep your mind on all of them at once? Likely not. I can't. But pick a couple of those things that I mentioned as we're moving through the flow. Yeah? Now, instead of warrior, I just want to let you know, we're going to do runner's lunge. The reason why I choose runner's lunge over warrior is because if you can do a runner's lunge correctly, A, you're learning how to use your glutes in a functional way. B, you're stretching your psoas a lot more, which is something we all need these days. And C, if you can get the alignment of a runner's lunge proper, then you can do the alignment in a warrior. So I consider the runner's lunge kind of like the mountain pose of a lot of our standing poses, okay? So instead of warrior in our Sun Salutation B, you're gonna see a runner's lunge. Don't panic, okay? All right, so do people have blocks? Give me a thumbs down if you don't. I can't see, Mom, that's a thumbs down, okay. All right. All right, so a few people don't have blocks. Some people do. I'm gonna cue for both, all right, because the block will be useful for our chair pose. Let's come to the front of our mats. You've been with me at the ranch, so this is probably very familiar. A lot of us ranch instructors like to actually use blocks in this way. So again, let's just start with the feet. That's our connection to the earth. We've got midlines of the feet at parallel here. Midlines of the legs parallel to one another. And those imaginary lines, right? Those imaginary lines you want to be completely stacked. So they're not on an angle, right? They're just straight up and down perpendicular to the ground. You'll take your block at this angle and place it between your thighs if you have it, yeah? Or a light book, maybe not a hardbound book, eh? And you'll find that that kind of fits really nicely. So let's find our mountain pose here. And you're gonna notice that by drawing on this block as if you're trying to lift the block into your pelvic floor muscles, this is gonna help you garner a greater connection to those deep intrinsic core muscles and pelvic girdle muscles. So both balls of each foot, that's the big toe knuckle, and then the pad of the other four toes rooting into the floor, outside of heel and inside of heel points, rooting into the floor, and then lifting the arches. How do we do that? Draw on the block, squeeze the block, lift the floor muscles, and that'll connect the inside line of the legs. Wiggle the toes a little bit, and now we'll connect upper body. So ribs draw down, shoulders draw down the back away from the ears. We start to get integrity and alignment in the arms. And our attention is so precise that we're even bringing our mountain pose down through to the fingertips and fingernails. The chin is tucked and the neck is long. We're staring directly at the horizon. Beautiful. And then from here, can you keep mountain pose in the arms and shoulders as you bring your arms forward, palms facing one another. And then we're gonna start to slide the hips back as we bend the knees. If you're using a block, here's where you really wanna start to draw on that block. Keep the ribs in.
Once you start to flare out the spine, you're compensating a little bit. Let's keep neutral spine. Let's keep mountain pose in tension. 90 degrees is not a requisite here. What I want is the intention, the mountain pose intention to stay with you in this Utkatasana, this chair pose. Keep breathing deeply and play with that fine line, that delineation between stability and strength and lack thereof. How upright can you get your spine? So mom, maybe draw your hips back and try to get your chest forward. So you're not down in a hinge, you're a little bit more upright this way. Good. It might be your angle too. Breathe deeply. And what we're going to do next is we're going to transition from our Utkatasana, our chair pose, to our hinge. Bring your hands to your side and then push your feet into the ground to straighten the legs out. And we're going right into our hinge. Hinge is mountain pose, bent at the hips. Inhale to lengthen everything. Exhale to allow yourself to fall forward into your standing front bend. Good. Hands on the backs of the ankles. You could take the big toes, stand on the feet. Allow the head and shoulders to relax and fall. Keep breathing deeply. Make the ribs wider. Chin tucks, neck long. Two more breaths. Karen, can you release your head a little more even? The back of the neck could use a little bit more. There you go. Awesome. Beautiful. Mom, you too. See if you can look behind your feet. Just let your head fall and get heavy. Yeah. Good. Now, can we bend our knees a little bit if we need to? Root our hands onto the ground. This connection to the ground is oft underrated. If you have a block, you can remove the block to your side. Good. Spread the fingers wide, index fingers parallel. Now, can you remember which foot you stepped back with before? Step back with the opposite this time. So I'm stepping back with my right foot and placing it down onto the ground. I'm going to straighten and engage that foot. Good. Straighten and engage that leg, and then I'm stepping back with the other foot. We're in plank now. We're just going to take 2 or 3 deep breaths here. We're going to lower the knees, but not raise the hips. Spread the fingers again, grab the ground, and the elbow bones are bending back just a couple of inches, and the spine remains unchanged. Press up. We're going to do that one more time. Full repetition. Lower the whole body down. Press up. Good. Now we'll start to just gently bring ourselves down onto the ground. You can take your baby cobra as we've done before. That's a great option. If you are used to an upward facing dog, you can do that. I'll demonstrate. My index fingers are still parallel. I'm still grabbing the ground. The tops of my feet are on the floor, rooted onto the floor actively, kneecaps lifted. I'm pressing my whole upper spine up, but I'm keeping integrity in the legs. I'm keeping integrity in the core muscles, and I'm keeping the upper back and shoulders connected. My whole head isn't looking up, but my gaze is directed upward to the furrow of my brow, so I keep integrity in my neck. Now, whatever back bend you're taking, do that for 2 breaths. Now, if you're an upward facing dog, it's all mountain pose still. So the arms are in mountain pose, the shoulders are down the back, legs are strong, and core is connected. Baby cobra and up dog, same intention. Good. Tuck the feet. Good. Lower the head. And then we're going to press back and up into downward facing dog pose. You can also, mom, if your wrists have had it at this point, take a child's pose briefly, but an active child's pose. Good. Keep breathing into that, and you can march the feet a little bit. Just walking the feet. Heels up. Can you keep mountain pose arms as you do that? Now, we're going to pick our right foot here. The right foot is going to come forward between the hands. Yeah? But I'm going to do this systematically. So we're going to roll forward into a plank with our right knee to our center chest. Good. Now, as quietly as possible from this crane plank, yeah? Keep your left leg strong. That's a leg that's on the ground. And we're going to, as quietly as possible, try to place the foot between our hands, either using our own strength, or you can use your hand to assist you in that. So you can bring it up. But now we've got our right foot, or whichever foot you're using, in between your hands. We're in a low lunge here. Straighten that back leg strong until you feel a stretch in your front hip or you feel the glute connect. Draw the shoulders down the back and you can tent your fingers. This might help you right here, Mom. If you go onto your fingertips a little, it'll give your shoulders more space. Good. Let's just play with releasing the back leg and straightening the back leg 2 more times. Really feeling that connection in the back leg muscles, because this is the driving force behind our runner's lunge. Mountain pose the spine and the arms at your side. And now we're going to unhinge our spine in our lunge. Now I'm deep in this. I'm going to lighten it just so you can see this can be our lunge too. Our runner's lunge is our back leg heel is lifted as if you're running. The knee is drawing onto the kneecap. We have mountain pose, back leg. The hips are even, the ribs are in, the shoulders are down the back, the arms are straight, the fingers are spread wide. Inhale the hands high overhead. You can direct your gaze toward your pinkies. Draw your shoulders down your back. And consider drawing your ribs in here. The spotlight focus is the back leg. Can you keep that back leg as straight as possible with the heel lifted? A couple more breaths and you'll understand why it's called the work leg. Inhale through the ribs and back. Exhale, arms down. Keep the lunge legs, but hinge forward at the waist. So the spine is straight. We're working to try to draw the ribs in. Maybe your gaze is forward, 2.5 feet in front of your front foot. Now we can break structure to place our hands down on the ground. I'm wiggling my back leg back a little bit more. I'm in this low lunge. And then I'm going to slide my front leg back. Or if I'm really going for it with tented fingers, I'm going to lift my front leg and then step back. Now we're in plank. Lower your knees for a brief moment. Get yourself set up. Index fingers parallel. Good. Arms are straight. Remembering our mountain pose, shoulders down the back. Plank position with bent knees. Elbow bones are going back. We're lowering ourselves 1 or 2 inches. Pressing up. Elbow bones back. Pressing up. One more time, elbow bones back, shoulders down the back. Feel your back muscles and core muscles work here. Press up. And then just lower yourself down. Back bends, and I'll always say this, are mostly in the legs, the core, and the upper back. The low back muscles are secondary. We'll bring our hands to our low ribs so that our elbows are making something like a 90 degree. Turn your fingers out. Strengthen the legs
And then extend the spine with a tucked chin for baby cobra. For upward facing dog, the hands will come forward, keeping index fingers parallel, grabbing the ground with our 3 rings. Elbows stay back, shoulders down the back. Strong legs, press yourself up. Upward dog. Chin is tucked, neck is long, gaze is upward. Lower the knees wherever you are. Press yourself back into a child's pose. Take a couple deep breaths. Now you have an option to stay in child's pose. We are going to go in the down dog, but you have an option to stay in the child's pose. If you're going in the down dog, your fingers are spread wide. We're starting with the ground. Fingers are spread wide. Elbows start to straighten, so you feel those triceps muscles hug the upper arm bones. Shoulders draw down the back. Good. And then we'll start to press the balls of our feet into the ground and use the core muscles to elevate our pelvis up into downward dog. In Ashtanga, we were taught to really hyperextend our down dogs, but maybe, just maybe, work on a straight line from your hands to your tailbone. Align the ears with the upper arm bones, and now my left leg's gonna come forward. It may be different for you, but my left leg's gonna come forward. I'm rolling forward into a plank from here. Boom, I'm in plank. Index fingers parallel. This is all mountain pose. My left knee is coming up toward my sternum. And then you can use a little momentum to jump your foot between your hands. You can lift one of your hands, but the intention is to try to land your front foot as quietly as possible. That'll just trick you into using your muscles here. Good. Now, we're on the ground in a low lunge. I'm going to keep an eye. Good. I'm watching you now. Circle the wrist, straighten the back leg. Beautiful. Good, Karen. Good, Louise. That's a beautiful lunge, Miriam. Good. Queen. Excellent. I'm seeing you from the front, Mom. Camera's in a weird place, but breathe deeply into this. And now we're going to elevate the spine. All as one. So the arms will come to the sides in your low lunge. And then boom, the whole upper spine and arms lifts into your high runner's lunge now. Good. This is sometimes warrior. A lot of the times, all the time, it's warrior, but we're focusing on lunge here. That midlines of the legs parallel still stays. So the heel of your back leg turns out slightly, and you'll feel your glute engage more. Kneecap on the leg. Heels lifted like you're running. And again, energizing the arms is going to help you keep balance here. If you're having trouble with balance, widen your feet. Good.
Show me what you're doing.
Yes. You're in a high runner's lunge now. The heel is lifted. The knee is on the leg. The hips are even. I feel glute engaged, and I feel my arms are straight and strong. Chin is tucked, neck is long. We'll bring our arms up overhead, elbows straight. Breathe deeply into the ribcage. Inhale, exhale, mountain pose arms, spread fingers down back to your sides. And here's that hybrid movement where we're in our runner's lunge still, but we're hinging the upper body. My feet are about shoulder width here. That's how I'm so stable. I'll then bring mountain pose arms down to the ground. So my hands are on the ground, but I'm still in my runner's lunge. And then I'm going to slide my left foot back.
Shwa. Into this plank. We're holding plank for a brief moment, keeping the legs strong. Excellent. Karen, can you lift your head about 6 inches? Yes. Tuck the chin. There it is. That's it. Many of us, myself included, tend to let our head hang. This, good. All right, drop the knees. This is where people stop liking me. We have one more chaturanga here, yeah? So again, we're only doing small movements here. This is when you're starting to realize, oh, maybe I should have just moved an inch, like Adam recommended, yeah? So we're keeping plank from the knees to the very top of the head. Yeah, and you're just playing with lowering down or not at this point because you've had enough with the 90-degree in the wrists. That's okay. Shoulders down the back. Remember, this is all mountain pose. I'm a broken record. Bonus points if you could keep the ribs lifted. Double bonus points if you can express the breath with the movement. Exhale down, inhale up, or vice versa. Good. When you're done, do take a child's pose. We're finishing up the flow. After your child's pose, bring yourself down onto the ground on your belly, gently. And then organize the body for either a baby cobra or an upward facing dog. Again, baby cobra, here's the sequence. The midlines of the legs and feet are parallel, just like everything else. The kneecaps are lifting off the ground. The glutes are connecting. The core muscles are connecting. The hands are at your low ribs with the fingertips out. That gives your wrists a lot of space. You're drawing the heads of your shoulders down your back. And then you're lifting your spine from your sternum to the top of your head. Listen, I like baby cobra more than I like upward dog because it allows you less room for cheating. Make your spine long as you lift it. Upward dog is the same intention in the lower body and core muscles, but the arms are straight, shoulders are still down the back. If you take up dog, your wrists are aligned with your shoulders, they're stacked, arms are perpendicular to the ground. I prefer that the head is just looking forward, but the eyes are looking up. Lower the knees wherever you are, baby cobra or up dog. Tuck the feet. Root the hands and the feet into the ground. Lift the core so that the pelvis lifts into our downward facing dog. I'm reminding you about our 3 rings in our hands. Keep working that even if it feels like nothing now. Good. And then from this downward facing dog, in as few steps as possible, with as much structure in the arms and breath as possible, walk your feet between your hands. Try not to wake up the downstairs neighbors. That's the cue. Good and quiet. Now we have a passive front bend here. The knees are bent and relaxed. The spine is relaxed. The shoulders are relaxed. The head is relaxed. From that passive front bend, let's start to organize the feet and the legs. Straighten the legs. Connect to the intrinsic core muscles all around the waist and the pelvic floor. Shift the weight a little bit to the fronts of the feet. Start to create length in the spine. If you're doing that, it's going to take you out of your front bend a little bit, and that's okay. Shoulders down the back. And now, here's a new cue. Reach your fingertips toward the back of your mat. You can look at me for reference. I want you to try to touch the back of your mat with your fingertips. What that'll do is bring you further into your front bend. Maybe not a lot, just a little bit, but this is an active front bend. Head, shoulders, neck is relaxed. Active end range, front bend. Now, start to bend the knees. And we're going to go from our front bend to our Utkatasana, no block. This is our chair pose. So we have mountain pose feet. Actually, let's make it closer. Big toes together. Big toe knuckles together. Heels are separated by an inch. And we're going to draw our knees together. We're squeezing our knees together. Squeezing our inner thighs together. After that, we're going to focus on lengthening the upper spine, but keeping the ribs in. So I'm not totally forward with my body. I'm upright. I can see the wall in front of me. The shoulders are down my back, and my arms are straight forward as opposed to up. Just bring the arms forward, palms facing each other, chin tucked, neck long. This is mountain pose in the arms and in the spine, in the feet. The knees are bent, but this is mountain pose. And then press yourself away from the ground as you bring your arms to your sides, back to mountain pose. Couple deep breaths. Shake it all off. That's 19 moves. So each one of these poses that we do, I always say they're a meditation or an opportunity for meditation in and of themselves. Every movement, every breath is a meditation. And all that is just developing your finer awareness. Tuning into what you're feeling in the furthest corners of your body. And so just allow complete relaxation to permeate into the spaces between the toes and the bones of the feet. Allow the skin of the ankles to relax. Allow the kneecaps to unclench. And the muscles of the legs to fall loose on the bones of the legs. Even the abdominal muscles between the ribs and the hip bones almost become a pool. Just relaxed. The musculature of the ribs eases with each breath, allowing for more space in the ribs and in the spinal vertebra. And as the muscles of the torso start to relax, the breath can grow deeper and fuller and wider. Perhaps it's easier to move breath into spaces of the body where you couldn't before. Easier to move breath into the low back, into the side ribs, into the armpits. Easier to breathe into that cavity where the shoulder meets the chest. Or I should say the arm meets the chest. For the next 5 breaths, work toward unclenching all of the muscles a little bit more than the last breath.
Relaxing the muscles of the face. Relaxing the eyelids. Allowing the cranial muscles to unclench. And just notice all of the spaces where the breath is going. Notice maybe how much more aware you are now than when we're just moving through life like we usually do. And see how much of that you can carry as you start to come back online by wiggling the fingers and the toes. Yeah, maybe wiggle the nose. No one's watching, I promise. Good. Start to circle the hands and the feet one more time, or do anything that feels good to you regarding the hands and the feet. I will bring the knees to a bent position with the feet flat on the ground. And then I will windshield wiper the knees left to right. Yep. Left to right, left to right. Maybe a big yawn and reach overhead. I like that. Really feeling the ribs stretch. Good. And then roll to your favorite side, as long as it's the right side. Just kidding. Roll to your favorite side and press yourself up gently to a seated position. Seated position.